Anyway,
Welcome everybody. Like I said, a couple of different ones. You can see some familiar faces. My name's Freak Daddy, not really, but from Classic Rock 106.1 WTAK. I've been helping Jeremy with this back ever since he started this at the JC building. So honored to be here with you guys, and honored to be a part of this panel because I think as you see these individuals that were just our childhood, a lot of us. So without further ado, let's please welcome Miss Erin Gray.
How's everybody doing? Good?
yeah. All right, how are you?
God, well, it's good to be in Huntsville. I gotta tell you. I was so impressed. I came from the airport, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. You're more important than me. We're good.
I came from the airport and I've been driving along the freeway and all of a sudden went, it's gotta tell you, so impressed. And there were two.
Yeah.
Amazing. Anyway, last time I was here in Huntsville was about 40-something years ago.
Wow.
I think I was judging some Miss Teen America show or something. And all I remember was miles and miles of cotton. Cotton was everywhere. That was pretty amazing too, but I don't see it anymore. Gone, huh? No, no more. All right.
It's here where they pushed it out of the main Huntsville part of it for sure. So we have the microphone that's back here. So if anybody would like to ask questions, please go and line up and we try to, we got plenty of people here, or not as many, we can ask questions, but try to keep to maybe one question or so. And if you need to come back and ask another one. But I guess the one thing for your career that would be so unique, especially being in Huntsville, is you're kind of known for two different genres. You've got the sci-fi space side of things, and then you have the 80s sitcom,
Yep.
so you're kind of totally different stuff. So
Yeah.
what was balancing that? What's that like as far as from the days of, at these different shows?
Well, it's nice to know that, well, first of all, I find most people don't always recognize me. Like they know Silver Spoons, but they don't recognize that I was also Colonel Wilma and that sort of thing, which was interesting. For myself personally, it was really difficult shooting Buck Rogers because as all the mothers that are out in the audience here know, if you have a baby at home, you need to be at home with the baby. Because I was working 16 hours a day minimum, and Friday nights we'd work until 2 or 3 in the morning because they would have there's a situation where past a certain time they have to pay golden hour, but on Friday nights they can make you work till the sun rises if they wanted to, and then you go home, you go to sleep, and suddenly you get the new script for Monday, and there's no time for the family, and that was really, really hard for me. Silver Spoons was great. Oh, talk about a great work schedule because we did live performances on Friday and we would have 2 audiences, one in the afternoon and one in the evening. But the rest of the week was just rehearsals. And Mondays you got to come in at noon, which was great. I could go grocery shopping. I could see my doctor or whatever. And then it was interesting to suddenly be doing comedy because that's not my expertise. I always thought of myself as more of a dramatic actress. But then I realized, okay, I'm the straight person here. That's my job is to be, it's funny because at home, everybody knows that you can tell me a joke and just go right over my head. I don't know. I'm such a literal person. So that part worked out really well for me in that sense. And the fact that Ricky didn't have to come just to the set until he finished his schooling in the morning. So yay, I didn't have to come and work either. It was fabulous. And then there was something really wonderful about working in front of a live audience and you getting that immediate feedback from the audience. It's like you're doing this dance, you're like, is this joke gonna land? Are they gonna get it? Are we gonna get a laughter? And if you saw Silver Spoons, Joel Higgins was the best at keeping a straight face. And I would sometimes be backstage and I'm going, how long is he going to hold that look? Because if you hold it just right, you might get a second laugh. And so I'd be backstage going, okay, he's 20 seconds, 25 Oh my God, he's holding it for 30. He got a second laugh. Will he get a third? It's something interesting to learn about comedy. Joel had to teach me a lot, like, whatever you do, don't be doing something when I'm landing the joke, okay? I don't care. Don't spin that red ribbon with your finger. It's like, okay, I'll just be there. Okay. Anyway, but it was great. It was interesting times. Yeah.
Go there.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for coming back to Huntsville.
Well, thank
I
you.
hope they did tell you that big old beautiful rocket standing up, that's a replica. The real one is laying down protecting
She
the
did,
elements.
my driver did tell me that. Yeah, but it's still pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Go see the whole museum if you get a chance.
Oh, I won't get a chance this time, but maybe another time.
Come back there.
Okay.
I wanted to, thanks for coming. I wanted to say, what was one of your favorite memories from Lucky Buck Rogers or anything? And also let everybody know what you're doing now.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Well, speaking of that baby, here I am on Buck Rogers and I'm not seeing him. And the studios are not very supportive in those days of women bringing housekeepers or bringing your kid to the set or whatever. So one day I went, I'm just going to have my babysitter bring my son to the set. So he's about 2 years old. And do you remember the Vampire in Space episode, the Borbon, Yeah. So he's a pretty scary dude, right? So I'm doing that scene where he's got his fingers in my throat. There's one tear coming down my left side of my eye. And I look over the Borbon's shoulder, and there's my son going. I thought, I've done it. I've destroyed my child. Yeah. Then take two. One day I have the day off. So I finally show my son where mommy goes to work, because that's what I keep saying to him. Mommy's going to work and mommy will be back. So I go to this studio and there's a red light saying they're filming or whatever, and then it turns off and I go in this stage and it's this huge, maybe twice the length of this, maybe a little bit wider in this room. And the entire thing is draconian flagship, wall to wall. And off in the distance, I hear the director go, "All right, everybody, we have one take. Got it? Team one, are you ready? Team two, team three." And at this point, I'm like, I don't know what they're shooting, but I'm leaning up against the wall with my baby in my arms like this, like, okay. And all of a sudden, action, and the entire draconian flagship exploded. And first there was one explosion another explosion over here, and there's a guy on a springboard, a stunt guy, and he's flying through the air, and then boom, another one's flying through the air this way, another one, and finally Gil Gerard, Buck Rogers is coming straight at me and my son up against the wall. And he collapses to the ground, covered in debris, and my son goes, "Mommy, Buck Rogers is dead." And I'm going, okay, I hope the sound didn't get that, because there was one take and I done it, whatever. And then Gil Gerard comes out from underneath all the rubble and he takes this rock, this boulder, and he throws it at my son. And my son goes, and it's styrofoam. And you could see his wheels going, "I'm carrying a boulder, but this shouldn't, it doesn't feel heavy." And Gil looked at him and winked at the same time. Anyway, so those are two fun kind of stories, I guess. Yeah. And the second question I forgot to ask. Let me just take a moment. Right now, occasionally I will act. Usually it's a director I've worked with before, or a producer or something if I get a job, but I don't really have time to audition because I'm running a company. And everybody, when you get a chance to go online and check out Heroes for Hire, and I represent celebrities and book them in events like this one around the world. And what's kind of interesting is I started it 30-something years ago. And at that time, there were 5 shows in the United States, 1 in Germany and 1 in the UK. And now there are shows in every country in the world, every state in the United States, it's just been interesting to be at the beginning of a growth industry and to see how it's sort of exploded, and that keeps me pretty busy. So it's really hard to audition. So, unless they know me, whatever. So that's what I'm doing. Yes.
First of all, again, thank you so much for coming out. It's a real pleasure to get to meet you and get to see you.
Thank you.
Speaking that you were 1/3 of my sci-fi crushes in the 70s, along with Carrie and Linda Carter. So good company.
Yeah.
You have a tremendous career between Buck Rogers and Silver Spoons and the Teen USA pageants. I am asking about Heroes for Hire because being from Atlanta, I know that they did a lot with Dragon Con.
Yes.
Would you say that that's one of the more successful things that you've gotten to do? And is that something that you're one of the more things that you're most proud of?
Wow. Yes, I am very proud of what I've accomplished. I started out as a model. I didn't go to college, although I love studying. But at the time that I got into the business, my choice was, I don't know, I remember one morning, I'm in a calculus class at UCLA, because I got really good grades and I scored high and all that and got in. But my agent had just asked me the night before if I wanted to do the collections in Paris. And I'm sitting here in calculus and I'm going, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do anything with calculus. I'm heading to the collections. And, no one ever told me growing up that I could be a CEO of a company.
Right.
And it was in those days, you went to college to meet a guy, to get married, and my mother's number one advice, or you become a secretary, or you become, retail sales or something like that. But and I did not realize at that time that women had no rights. And we're talking like 1967. Okay, and I had a certain belief that women were really smart. I know I was one of the smartest in my high school, so the fact that women didn't have rights never crossed my mind, although my mother kept saying, I asked her, she was married 5 times, why do you keep getting married? She said, because I'd never have a house if I didn't have a husband. I went, huh? What? Didn't understand that. So, so I took the path of, I'm doing it my way. And I got into modeling, and modeling is the only business that I know that women make more money than men. That felt good. I liked that. And I was good at it. And I got to travel the world, which was to me an education in itself. I lived in Germany for a year. I was the Max Factor girl in Japan. It was great. But then you have a short life in modeling. And so then I transferred into acting because I was doing a lot of commercials in the 70s and so on. And that was great. But, I had a bookkeeper, I had other people taking care of certain things in my life. But I did 2 TV series and my husband left me. Now, my poor husband suffered major from post-traumatic syndrome from Vietnam. And it was just tough for him. And we separated. And then I found out I was bankrupt. And I'd had a successful modeling career, and successful 2 series. Although what a lot of people don't know is I was under contract to, for Buck Rogers. I made $600 a week starring in the #1 show. Do you think women get taken advantage of in Hollywood? You betcha. So, but even so, when I found out I was bankrupt, I still wanted to keep my kid in school, private school if possible. And I needed to find another job. And I wasn't qualified for anything. I didn't have my college degree. I didn't know how to type. I didn't know how to do any of that. And I needed to figure out how to survive. And I discovered these shows. It was sort of word of mouth in those days. There were no computers. Barbara Luna, I met her at the Chicago Museum of Arts and Sciences or something like that. And they were doing a Women of Sci-Fi conference or something. And the women were all sort of whispering over here and I'm kind of like listening in and they're talking about conventions and I went, what's a convention? And they looked at me and they went, you don't know? I said, no, I don't. I said, well, you should go. And I went, do they pay any money? Sure. Okay. And where do I start? So I it was in the back of my mind, but I didn't do anything. And instead I was going to like employment agencies and going, hi, can you hire me? How can I get a job? And it was so embarrassing because they didn't know what to do with me. I mean, you were starring in a TV series. You're coming in here and you're looking for a job. I get, yeah, anything, anything. Can you do anything? I don't know, but I'm smart and I'll figure it out. Okay. Luckily that was my tape in the back of my mind that I believed in myself. So eventually, Barbara Luna called me up one day. She said, Erin, you're gonna go to this show. You're gonna bring 500 pictures. You're gonna call me up later and say thank you. Okay. So I went to this convention. I had no idea what to expect. And I just remember driving into the parking lot and I'd seen this convention hall and these people wrapped around in long lines around it. I finally make my way in and I find the promoter. I say, hi, I'm Erin Gray. I said, who's that line for? You.
Oh,
I mean, I start crying. It was like, huh? What? I had no idea. No concept of the success of Buck Rogers. And I went in there and people were coming up to me going, we got married as Buck and Wilma and we had their uniforms on. I'm like, okay, that's great. And then, but the biggest thing was having women come up to me saying, you're the reason I'm in the Air Force, or you're the reason I'm a fighter pilot for the Israeli Army. I'm like, really? Okay. You're the reason I'm the #1 female marksman. I'm like, marksman. And I'm like, that is so cool that I have some sort of legacy that I had no idea that I had created or I was a part of. It was really awesome. But anyway, so I did this convention. I went, okay, I have other friends who might want to do this. But anyway, I started, there was a little newspaper print magazine called Pegasus. And you could go through it and find the various shows. And I would call up the promoters myself. I mean, I'm fearless. I said, Mama's got bills to pay and kids to feed. And I'd make a phone call. And they, yeah, sure, we'd love to see you. And I started going to these events. And one day, Gil Gerard called me. He said, what are you doing this week? And I said, well, I'm going to Cincinnati to a Star Trek show. And he says, well I want to go. I was like, okay, well, they want me. They're going to want you, that's for sure. He said, I'll give him a call. He said, okay, great, and I'll pay you 10%. And I went, well, you're a friend. I'll just do it as a friend. No, I'm going to make you work for it. I went, okay. So I booked Gil, and then Gil went and played golf with Mark Singer from Beastmaster. And Mark Singer's, I had done a movie with his sister, Lori Singer, and his daughter was in the same ballet class that my daughter was in. So Mark calls me and says, I want to go. I went, okay, it's 10%. And I just put one foot in front of the other. And then I had to learn how to make contracts because I couldn't afford an attorney. So I started like researching contracts. What's an indemnity clause? Oh, God, okay. Oh, I like this clause better. I'm going to use that one. And I just started piecing together contracts, and just working my way through it and figuring it out. And then the other thing was telling promoters what they needed if they wanted a certain class of actor. And the #1 thing you must all know is feed them. Feed the actors. And I'm not talking about chips or Cheetos, okay, or any of that. And it's like even today, I have to say, love Jeremy, love this show. The food was great yesterday, but I went, they only have ham. Okay, if you're from California, you want to have grilled salmon or chicken on lettuce, okay? That's what actors eat. And you got to have food to feed them. I remember one time there was a young promoter who called me from Calgary. He was like 22 years old. And I said, so when you want to do this show, huh? And I said, so what are you all about? And I said, you go to college. And I started asking him all these questions. And in the conversation, I realized this guy's really smart. I said, you didn't graduate from college? He said, no. He said, I kept asking my professors things about business and they didn't know the answer. So I figured, I don't need this. So I gave him this tip. I said, one thing you do, you gotta feed the actors. And he took it seriously. And when he opened his show, he hired a personal chef, somebody who had been a celebrity chef and had 5 minutes on the morning news kind of thing about, and he brought her in. And all I remember is Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner on their hands and knees. Please do that homemade vegetarian soup. Or I gotta bring in that salmon. I want that panini sandwich. Please be here tomorrow. And the amount of social media that they got, that promoter got out of just that green room alone, like all the actors were like, I want to go to that show. I hear they really feed you well. Anyway,
Thank you so much.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Did you have a favorite experience, shows you weren't a regular on, when you just came in for 1 week? And do you have any memories of being on the Rockford Files?
So glad you asked that question. The other passion in my life is Tai Chi. I'm a grandmaster, only because I've been doing it for so long. They say once you get 70, you've been doing it for 40 years, you're a grandmaster. But I still have things to learn. So I'm not bragging about it, but I do love it. And the reason, when I met James Garner, good-looking guy, #1 leading man in Hollywood, I'm like, this is so cool. I'm like, hey, can we have lunch? Like to get to know you. He said, no, I don't do lunch. Okay. Why? He says, I go to my acupuncturist. Now, in the 70s, I remember when Richard Nixon opened the doors to China, and that was the headline on the New York Times. There was a second story on the front page from the reporter who went with him. And the reporter tells how he goes to China with Richard Nixon and he ends up having an appendicitis attack. And the next thing he knows, he's being cut open by the surgeon and they gave him no medication. Instead, they put needles in his body in various places. He said it was really weird. I'm talking to the surgeon. I know he's cutting me open. This is okay. And he had quick recovery because he didn't have to get rid of all the toxins in the body from all the medication. So he starts talking about acupuncture and what that's all about. So now I'm meeting James Gardner. I'm going, okay, red light here. Okay, why do you go to see an acupuncturist? And he said, because I do a lot of stunts and I hurt myself and I have a bum knee and I'm in pain all the time. And he said, if I go to Western medicine, they're going to give me pain pills and then I'm going to be addicted to drugs. And I can't do that. And the only way that I can be on this series and leap over cars and hedges and chases out the bad guys is to go to my acupuncturist because he will make me pain free, which he'll just re-injure again on the next chase scene. But at least the acupuncturist says, even that way. Plus, he said, when you're working long hours on a series, you get really drained of energy. And this keeps my energy flowing. So I went, okay, give me the name. I'm going to go check him out. So I went to this acupuncturist and I'm thinking, okay, I get lying on a table for half an hour. I probably needed a nap. This is what's making me feel better. And, he does the needles and all that. And they don't hurt at all. Nothing. Because they're really thin. But I'm trying to figure out how this works. So I'm always asking him questions about what he's doing and he's explaining the whole system of acupuncture. So one day I'm on Silver Spoon and I am sick. I am really sick. And I hear over the loudspeaker the producer going, Erin, go home. You look like shit. Gee, thanks, guys. Okay, so I had this head cold. I could barely breathe. And instead of going home, I went to my acupuncturist. I said, you got to heal me. You have to heal me. They wrote this episode especially so that I could sing and dance. Now, I'm naturally a dancer, not highly trained, but something that I'm comfortable with and easy with. But I can't sing. God, I can't sing. But I studied opera 10 years. Still can't carry a tune, but I persevere. I want to be a singer. I really like it when I sing. So the producers had always heard me in my dressing room doing my scales and so on. So they wrote this episode. And here I am with this head cold. So the acupuncture is just needles all down the front of my body. Comes in about an hour later, takes them out, turns me over, does it all the way down the back. Another hour, takes needles out. Third time he does it down the front, and he twiddles a needle right in my third eye area. And the minute he did that, I went, and I felt this energy go from the top of my head all the way through my body to my toes. And I went, what was that? You know, you are better now. And I was. That was what was amazing. My cheeks were rosy, my eyes were bright. I was blowing my nose nonstop. Stuff was coming out of me, but I was completely healed. And I went, this is great stuff. So I ended up going back to the studio to do a run through, which is what we did Thursday nights for the network. And I went on to perform, and I'm going, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and this is going to be gone, and I'm going to be sick again. Nope. Next day I was great. So, and of course, when I walked in from the acupuncturist, everybody, all the other actors pretty much, and stage managers too, going, okay, what drug are you on? Because we want some, whatever it is. You're not the person who left here earlier. And so I went, okay, there is something to this acupuncture. Okay. So then, as I asked this doctor, how does it work? What's it all about? And eventually he said to me, you know, acting is very dangerous to your health. Hello? Really? I'm an actor, and you're telling me my job is dangerous to my health. How is that possible? In Chinese medicine, your emotions affect certain organs in your body. And every organ in your body has a paired organ. So lungs and large intestines are a paired organ, okay? One is considered yin, one is considered yang. And my grandmother, I know Lori, you've heard the story forever. Lori's my best friend over there. Grandma used to say to me, if you have the sniffles, have an enema, you'll be fine. Well, Chinese doctors have the same concept. If there's something wrong with your lungs, they're going to check your large intestine to see if the stoppage in the function in your body starts there. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So lungs and large intestines is aligned to loss and grief. So you lose a parent or whatever, or a relative of some kind, you have a loss in your family of any kind, most likely you're going to get a cold or something, pneumonia, or it's going to reside there. Fear is your kidneys, worry is your stomach, spleen, and so on and so forth. So, and he said, you know, in real life, if you're walking across the street and you almost get hit by a car, your cortisol level shoots up in your body. Okay? It comes down and then you're fine. If you're an actor and you're doing a scene as if someone's about to hit you with a car, your body does not know that your emotions aren't real. And so all day long, 100 takes, that cortisol level shooting up in your body. And I remember one time driving home from a set, and I had been enraged and all kinds of emotions. It was a really toxic day of emotions, high level. And I literally had to pull off at the side of the road because I just because the cortisol level was finally subsiding, but I had the shakes. I was a mess, you know, it's like, thank God a cop didn't call me over. You know, what drug are you on? No, it was emotional all day, and this is what happens to me. So he then said to me, he says, you don't have to come see me spend $150 an hour. Excuse me if you're offended by my using an Asian accent, but I was raised in Hawaii, and I had an Asian accent until I was 9, until my grandmother got a hold of me and made sure that I had a nice Midwestern accent. But so I drop into it. It's my other language. He says, for pidgin English, he says, you don't have to come see me spend $150 an hour. You learn Tai Chi. Does the same thing. I says, you mean I learned how to do these slow moving, whatever, yeah. And that's the same. This is an exercise I can learn to do and take with me anywhere I go, everywhere I go. Sign me up. So I found myself a grandmaster and I started studying Tai Chi, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's my passion, and I teach it. I started teaching at UCLA the college I didn't graduate from, but it was funny to be back there as a teacher teaching Tai Chi. And that's my passion, is to let people know about it, that there is another alternative to Western medicine. I had a situation recently where I had a squeezing of the heart, and I could feel it in the middle of my back. I'm going, what is this? And it would go away and come back and go away. And then one day it was so bad that I was literally in tears, like, okay, I have to pay attention to this. And I went to the hospital, I went to see a cardiologist, I went to my doctor, I did all the blood tests, I had a scan, an ultrasound, whatever, C-scan, whatever. Did everything there was. Nothing was wrong. Yeah, but I'm still in pain, guys, okay? So what is this? What's wrong with me? And I ended up going to my acupuncturist. I said, obviously my Tai Chi's not working enough today, so we've got to take a look at this. Got off that table and I had no problems ever since. And I'm like, how many doctors did I see? How the hospital? How many tests did I have? She took care of me. So I just recommend acupuncture, Tai Chi, and the easier thing to learn is Qigong. Qi means energy and Gong means the art of or the work of energy. So go online, do some research, really works.
So when you come to some of these shows, like to me, I was a radio guy for 26 years, and people would always come up to me and say, "Oh, it's so cool! You got to meet this person, and you got to," and not to mention any names, or whatever. But sometimes they would be really cool, and sometimes it'd be the most horrible experience you've ever had. So without saying names, I know you've done a lot of these. How have you handled the people that are maybe not the best at coming to these events, or handling? Because they're there. It's like it's people. We're all family, right? We're all dysfunctional in some sort, some better than others. But I'm sure you've seen a bunch of those situations and had to handle those, I'm sure, over the
Yeah, my blood's boiling already. Yeah. Let me share with you who the best leading man was. Tom Selleck. Man walks in integrity. Classic guy, a gentleman. He had more women throwing themselves at him. I couldn't, his bus, there was constantly hundreds of women around it or whatever. He was always pleasant and professional. And I would say his crew would have died for him, would have done anything for him after 5 years of working with him, because he was the kind of guy that they're working at 2 a.m. on the beach and he'd be picking up the ropes and the coils and whatever. And they're going, no, the union rules. Oh, screw unions, you guys want to get home. Let me help. He was that kind of guy. Unfortunately, I met a guy who was just the opposite spectrum. I would say probably, in my opinion, the most evil person I've ever met. I mean, evil. And I remember having to deal with him, and I've only called the union once to complain about a fellow actor. I felt that I had to protect other women. No. But pretty bad, really bad. And my shock was that the union went, oh yeah, we've had about 10 complaints. We need 2 more before we can take away his SAG card. And I went, what? 1 isn't enough? Do you know what it took me to be able to pick up this phone and call my union to complain? Last thing I ever want to do, but I just have to protect other actresses from this guy. And he later on, since I do represent a lot of actresses, was at an event that one of my actresses, beautiful, wonderful human being that she is, and I told the promoters, protect her. And you know what? They didn't hear me, and he slithered his way into her private car. I just remember getting a phone call going, what was that about? Yeah. What was interesting was also to find out later on when we did ADR, which is you do voiceover work after you film something because maybe a car went in the background and they have to retape it. And I walked into the studio and this young associate producer said, so how was it? Did you enjoy being on the show? And I went, and I just lost it, just crying. And I just, it was horrible. And he's, it's okay, it's okay. We all know, we all know, this guy comes in and sucker punches me every day in my kidneys. Really, so it didn't matter if it was female or male, he was abusing everyone on the set. And then I found out it was a makeup artist and came in one day and took ice cold water and poured it down her pants. And said, I owe you some red roses, don't I? Like, what? What are you doing? Or he would come in one day and he was yelling and screaming at her, you are worthless, you are nothing, you're so untalented, blah, 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 blah. And then went, more red roses, right? So yeah, there are evil
Evil people.
everywhere, and you just have to do the best you can.
We have
Stay out of
one more
the way.
question here, and if we could help her with that microphone, thank you.
Hello, my name is Christina. I'm a child of the 80s, obviously.
I'm sorry, you're a,
Child of the 80s.
oh, okay.
And I know I'm most familiar with your work from Silver Spoons. What did your children think of it, of your role, and were they awestruck by any of the actors or actresses?
Well,
Or
my,
were they embarrassed?
that's interesting. Hmm. My son had the biggest problems because I was the hot babe in pants. So he got kind of blasé about that at this point. We're sort of, we laugh, we have a sort of a special union because we joke about that. He reminds me of, well, yeah. We're close, but I think he had to deal with a lot of teasing from other boys, a lot. Yeah, and the other thing is that he was, let's see, a little bit younger than Ricky, but they're almost like twins in terms of both blonde, blue-eyed. So, I think it was awkward for him. I think it was uncomfortable because, Ricky's playing my son and then my real son. And so I actually don't know too much, but I would imagine that it was uncomfortable for him, having a mom who was a star and having all that attention on me and things like that. My daughter, who came much later in life, had no idea who I was. That was interesting too.
Alrighty, thank you, and thank you for being a part of our childhood.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, well, she's gonna be back at her booth and signing autographs and pictures and everything, so please stop by and visit Erin. Let's give her a big round of applause and thank you for coming to Huntsville.
I was gonna ask you what sort of movie it's that would be shallow. But obviously it's the Titanic.
Yeah, you found that out.
Yeah.
You,
Because I mean,
I almost asked,
that,
I thought about asking her your Rachel Cook question.
it's one thing we kind of done too. That's always fun. I like that, and I like what's your favorite thing? What brings you joy? Is the fact out.
You were doing the next
And
one.
no one has come that back. So let's see. I think I need a restaurant break. After one goes back.
So fun.
Super fun.
Um,
I be trying to like practice so.
um,
What do you think I'm doing next?
I mean, I've got nothing really planned. I might want to like walk around to say bye to a couple people. Jamie Priest stopped by her booth.
You stop by her?
I did.
You said?
I apologize for the Oogie Love's question. And she's like, "How was you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sorry about that." She's like, "Ah, yeah." Like I said, sometimes you do the work you get to work with. Like, I hear those. And it said that you had reminded me of your favorite quote from her. And it's, "I've got booby glitter on my face." And then you continuously say it.
It's so funny.
And she was like, oh, you gotta bring her over here.
Dan Bowler's in the Walking Dead fan. I watched this for B. If y'all want to see that, whether or not interested, I do know. No, but that's up to you. Yeah, so I'll definitely stop by her after this gets out at probably 3:45. And, well, I was gonna say, we get some of the talk there. And we're looking at for people a little bit earlier.
It'd be nice to be able to just go say hi. I'm out of cash, so
Yeah, I need
stay till I'm out of cash.
everybody in cash, but I'd still say hello.
Yeah.
I'll say hello to Jamie, I love that, and. You know, you could start to realize that.
I did. She complimented me on my shirt.
Oh, did it, sorry. But just anything else you want to do?
Anything else for you, bud?
This is, also,
Had a good time?
so much.
And there's a lot to take in, it's like sensory overload a little bit.
Yeah, so really almost there.
Yeah.
Let's go.
You know, it's fun.
Yeah, dude, yeah, just commonlyberry.com.
Outstanding.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.